Hailing frequencies open. Welcome back to Trek Retrek here on Geek the F Out. I am Captain Johnny.
And I'm Ensign Kayla.
I feel like I have to do it every time now.
A bit delayed, but you got there.
Well, let me switch to my silent mouse.
Silent mouse.
No clicking
Silent
can be heard.
as a mouse.
Ha. It's season 3.
Yes. The final season.
We can't do it. There. Yeah.
What?
It's funny. Apparently the band hates that song and charges a crap ton of money to license it.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Already getting to tangent time. We just started.
Yes.
As usual.
Yeah. Last time it was last time Bread, or was that two?
I don't know.
I don't think Bread and Circuses was the last one. I think it's 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Wait, I can see.
Huh?
Yeah, Assignment Earth was last episode. That was the Gary 7 one. 2 episodes ago was Bread.
I just heard you say, I can see, and I'm like, I hope you can see.
Peekaboo. Okay, let's get into it. We're talking about Season 3, Episode 1, Spock's Brain. TVGuide.com says, following a woman's mysterious appearance on the bridge, it is discovered that someone, using advanced medical technology, has stolen Spock's brain. That tripped me up for a second because the following a woman's mysterious appearance, I'm like, wait, I said that wrong, because you never really hear mysterious appearance. You always hear mysterious disappearance, like people mysteriously disappear. So the words mysterious appearance together just felt wrong.
Yeah.
But it was a mysterious appearance.
It was a mysterious appearance. That was for sure. Shall we get into it?
Let's.
So my first note off the bat is new music ? And it is kind of weird that no one has talked yet and there hasn't been any kind of narration. Like there's just this void of talking for a while.
So a couple of things. I didn't really notice if it was new music because I skipped the opening because it's been the same for the last 55 episodes.
Not the like intro, but just music in the show.
Yeah, there was new music.
Scored
or for this one. However, the text has changed to blue from yellow. It's been yellow all these past seasons, and like the title where it said Spock's Brain and the credits, they're blue text now instead of the gold.
That's right. It was different.
What's up with Scotty's hair?
That's my next note. I was like, Scotty changed his hair, dyed it, and then I realized he just slicked it back, so now it's poofy. But it also does look like it's been dyed a little bit. It's too much of the same color. Like no one's hair is actually one color.
I almost used a pompadour for spoilers without context just because of that, but I didn't.
Yeah. So the Enterprise comes across a spaceship or some kind of spacecraft that they have no idea what it is, and there is one humanoid on board, and all of a sudden a lady in a purple outfit beams onto the bridge and knocks everyone out on the ship and then touches Spock creepily. They then wake up and Spock is gone. He's in sick bay on the table with apparently no brain. And his nerves have been sealed off. And Scotty's new hair is really throwing me off is my next note. Like, it really just took me out of it. And I looked it up while I was watching it. And people were saying, yeah, he, like, changes his hairstyle. Even within an episode, he changes it a bunch of times. But, yeah, I was like, maybe he got hair plugs. But no, it just looks like he, like, poofed it back and maybe just got it dyed or something.
Did you notice the other change to a character's appearance in this episode?
Yes. I'll get
Okay.
to that. There's actually a couple. So they follow the lady's ship's trail, and Sulu has the Bieber swoop over hair now. Like, he kind of already did, but now it's like extra swoopy, and there's even like a single tendril down. Not quite a tendril, a like strip of hair. A tendril, you think it's like curled. And Ahura's hair is also a little different, and I'm like, what is going on here? Why is everyone's hair so different? Was that the one you were thinking of?
There was something else with Uhura that changed.
Oh, does she not have her green hoops?
No, she's got gold spiral earrings in now.
I missed that. Dang it. And I watched it like 3 times.
To be fair, I didn't notice it the first time I watched it. I actually noticed it in the second episode because I already watched the next episode, and then I went back to see if it had changed in this episode too, and it had. So yeah, I didn't notice it the first time, but then I went back to make sure it had changed. Yeah, the green hoops are gone, which is, I don't know how I feel about that, because they've been her earrings every episode.
Yeah, so sad. So they look at the planets in the system to try to figure out where she went, and Uhura brings up the point that why would they want Spock's brain to begin with, which is a very good point. And somehow this helps them decide on Planet 6, but also because there's like a lot of energy coming from there apparently. And it's like a glacier planet. And so Kirk, Scotty, Chekhov, and 2 red shirts beam down to the planet and discover some of these cave people nearby who are all wearing the same exact thing. Like, exactly the same thing. Like, it's like a caveman uniform, essentially. I was like, why didn't they even try to make it, like, a little bit different? And the cave people start to attack with sticks and rocks, and Kirk stuns one of them while the others run away. And, of course, they understand and speak English.
I'm trying to think of how the universal translator is, I think, built into the communicators. So it helps them. But yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And then the cave dude says Kirk is not the others, and I was like, okay, this isn't Lost. What is going on here? Why are we calling people the others? Which will tie in with my spoilers about context later. And he says the others are givers of pain and delight, which I was like, there's a fine line between pleasure and pain. And they find out that they don't know what women means, even though there's literally women on the planet. They just call them the others. And Chekhov finds a cave that they think is a trap set from the others, and the caveman runs away. Bones beams down with Spock with this device on his head to apparently control his body's movements. And I know they said this earlier, that they needed to bring Spock along to, like, immediately put the brain inside of him, but I was like, why? Like, they could just as easily beam back up instantly and put the brain in him. Like, I felt like it was really risky to bring his body down with him, especially when, like, they have to control Spock's movements, Spock's body's movements.
And it's painfully slow.
Yeah. And so Bones makes... Oh, this was my own note. So Bones can make this device for Spock to control his body, but can't put his brain back in. The math ain't mathin'. Like, that has to work with the nerves. Like, you have to work with the nerves in the body to have these reactions and move. So, math ain't mathin'. So Kirk, Bones, Spock, and Scotty purposely get trapped in the cave, and it goes down like an elevator. Scotty says there's a force getting closer to the planet and that it can push it out of orbit somehow, or in the planet. I was very confused by that. Did he mean from inside the planet?
Yeah, the power signals that they were reading as they were traveling downwards in that elevator, the signal was getting closer. and he could
I
could clearly see that it was a powerful enough force that it could actually knock the planet out of orbit. It was generating that much power.
I see. So let's see. Oh, the door is open and it's a lady in yellow and Kirk stuns her. These corridors look a little familiar from maybe some other episodes. I can't name.
I think at least
them, but
Return of the Archons, I believe, is one where they might have been used.
But it's definitely been used before.
What are little girls made of?
For
the underground
sure.
facility with the androids.
Oh, yeah. So, let's see. Oh, she says they're not Morg or iMorg and knows nothing about the brain. She is Luma and iMorg. And Bones says she has the mind of a child, which I'm like, harsh. And Kirk picks up Spock's voice on the communicator, which is just his brain, but somehow he can communicate. I don't know. Very confusing. And they run into Purple Lady, which this is what I called her at first until I realized her name was Kara or Kara. And she knocks them out again, except for Spock's body, of course. And they're brought into this conference room area and woken up, and they have these like silver and green belts on. And she asks them why they're there. And they have, oh, this was my own note. They have some chopped up, colorful food on the table, which they always do that. And like, that's always the food. It's like chopped up, like big. They look like big, not juicy fruit. Like Starburst, kind of. Or, what did I say before? Yeah. I said, not Laffy Taffy. Go ahead.
If I remember correctly, what it actually, it's like different kinds of melon that are cut up and dyed with food coloring.
That checks out. I'm trying to think of what's the thing. It's like it's like a Starburst, but bigger. Now and later.
Yeah.
Now and laters. There we go. So she doesn't know anything about the brain, and I was like, sure, Jan, sure. And Kirk asks her for their leaders, and she's like, I am leader. And he's like, no, you're not. And I was like, okay. And this is like, there was already the comments before about, like, I think, yeah, it was Scotty or Bones that said they had the brain of a child. So I was already like skeptical about this, but this is where I was like, okay, all right, so let's see where this is going. And so they realize that the controller is Spock's brain, because they can't figure out brain for some reason.
I think that they don't have the word for it. Like, they don't know that the word for it is brain.
But when, I think, Kirk says it's what, like, controls your body, that's where they're like, oh, we have a controller. And, that's when Kirk is like, oh, that must be Spock's brain. And he has to go there, but she knocks them out once again.
And there's a random... too.
Yeah, and then there's a random cutscene of Sulu now in charge on the ship, and Chekhov and the two other red shirts still warming their hands. That was just kind of like unnecessarily thrown in there.
Yeah, it was weird because I remember back to the episode where Sulu and them were like trapped on the planet freezing. And when they first beamed down, I felt like I heard Kirk say, set temperature to 72. Like they have their own personal, like, because they're walking around on this frigid planet with no jackets or any cold weather gear on, and they're perfectly fine with it until, when Chekhov does the thing with the phaser to heat up the rock. So I thought that was interesting. I was like...
It is very interesting.
Do they have, personal climate control things?
Yeah, I think they mentioned that this was one area that was more spring-like, so I think it must have just been warmer there, like maybe it was near the
Maybe.
equator or something. But anyways, so then Scotty says, well, those women couldn't have set up anything as complex as this place has to be. It would take an engineering genius, and there is no sign of engineering genius among those women. And I was like, fuck you, Scotty. Like, I mean, I get he means because it seems like they have primitive minds, but still. And also, it's like, clearly they have different words for things, like brains. And you don't really, it's like trying to communicate with someone in a different language who only knows a bit of your same language. Like, that's how I interpreted their reactions with or their interactions with the women. So I just thought that was a little annoying that he said that.
I could see that. I didn't see it that way. I saw it as like everybody on the planet has like a third grade level intelligence, like, because as we find out later, everything's taken care of for them. They don't need to use their brains. They're not getting education. So they only have like rudimentary intelligence. That's how I took it. And yeah, the way that he phrased it, it sounded like the line that he said is specifically calling out, the women on the planet. I think that's because they're the ones down in the more advanced area, but I think it's everybody on the planet. The line probably should have been, I don't see evidence of any great engineering mind among these people, like any of them.
That's what I figured he meant, but still, I was just like, why do we have to? I mean, we have the cavemen there too, but I don't know. It just was like, I'd rather not. So Kirk does say they're smart enough to create
I bet if it was written
devices.
today, it would be right.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, so Kirk does say they're smart enough to create these training devices. So I was like, well, at least Kirk said that.
I don't think they were. I don't think they created them. I think those devices would have been there.
Yeah, I think so too, but that's just
But that's
Kirk
what he
says.
said, yeah.
Yeah. So the three of them fight with the two guards in the room and take them out, grab the communicators, and Kirk talks with Spock, who calls them out for their impracticality of bringing his body. And I was like, thank you, Spock. Thank you. I feel validated in that point that I made earlier. And Spock beams a signal to them, which I was like, they have this whole conversation first, and then Kirk asked for him to beam the signal to them so they can find him. And I was like, why didn't you start off the conversation by asking him to do that if you're so limited on time?
Yeah.
I don't know. Crazy idea. So they follow it to find his brain. And they find it with the purple lady, aka Kara, again. And she puts them, or like makes them. I thought she was only knocking them out before, but I guess she can also like bring them pain, like make them in pain.
The pain was specifically from the belts, I think.
Yeah.
The knocking them out was from her wrist thing, whatever she had. I'm assuming it didn't work on Spock again because his brain is gone. Like when she knocked everybody but him out. So I think that to knock everybody out, they don't need to be wearing a belt. But I think the pain specifically, they have to have that belt on.
Got it.
That's how I took it anyway.
That makes sense. So, let's see. Kirk uses Spock's body controller to control him, to click the device on the purple lady's arm to release the belts, and he keeps hold of her arms. Spock's body does. Too many versions of Spock. It's very confusing. And Kara says they will die if the controller is taken away, and will give life to people for 10,000 years if he stays, which I'm like, I don't get this. This is weird. Weird concept. Because, like, how is his brain, which is organic tissue, live on for that long? So, anyways. And then she says she doesn't know how she took his brain. Bones says her brain has atrophied. And she says she got the info from the Great Teacher, which apparently is this tape storehouse of all ancient knowledge, aka the prickly helmet that I called it. And Kirk forces her to wear it, and she says the knowledge is forbidden, which I was like, why do we have to force her to do this? Like, I don't know. I get they're scrunched on time and, like, trying to reason with her is not going to happen, but yeah, so that happens, and all of a sudden she is smart and has a phaser set to kill. But of course Kirk ends up taking it away and says if she has the knowledge she could restore his brain, but she says she won't betray her people. So Bones steps in and gets the knowledge, but Spock says it might kill him, and Kirk decides to risk it anyway because he would risk it himself. So Bones gets the download of information and starts performing surgery on Spock to put his brain back in. And Kara's still insistent that they'll die when Kirk's like, you'll be fine. You'll live with the men above. Like, you'll figure it out. And I was like, easy for you to say, who pretty much knows nothing about them. You know? Like,
yeah.
It's just like a blanket statement of you'll be fine without, I don't know, any further knowledge that they'll actually be fine. I don't know, that kind of annoyed me.
He just assumed that they'll
thoughts.
figure it out and they'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like that was a big step.
Mm-hmm.
And also she's like, how do we do that without controlling men? Which I thought was funny. And Bones starts to lose his surgical knowledge in the middle of the surgery and connects Spock's vocal cords to help and guides Bones as to what to do, which I was like, okay, you can get your vocal cords, but you still have to, like, move your mouth and get those things to work, because clearly we see him doing that later.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I'm just nitpicking. And Bones tests to make sure his nerves are lined up with parts of his body, and Spock wakes up and starts to mansplain the history of the planet to Kara, which I'm like, I'm sure, well, she may not know this because it may not have been information that was kept in her brain, but I was like, she probably knows this, was my thought. And that's the episode.
Yeah. Spock loved this experience. Like, this is my general thoughts. Like, at the end, he was absolutely, he was having a grand old time.
He did.
So what are your general, aside from stuff we already talked about in the thing, like the specific dialogue towards the women on the planet could have been better, like to encompass everybody living on that planet as a whole rather than just singling out the women. What did you think of the episode in general?
Yeah. I thought it was fine. One of my overall thoughts was poor Spock just keeps having these things happen to him and just like keeps almost dying again and again. Like, I think he's almost died or died more than any other character. I feel like
I think the part of the problem is when the show became popular, Spock became the most popular character on the show, and it's supposed to be Kirk, but it actually is Spock, and it was
Fascinating.
it seemed to be a delicate juggling act trying to keep Shatner happy as the starring actor while giving the audience more Spock stuff, because one of the facts that I read from a previous episode was like Spock got more fan mail than anybody. I think was one of the things.
Interesting. That makes sense.
So,
that checks out.
but you had to keep William Shatner's ego well fed,
Yeah,
or you didn't
Of
have
course.
a show, really.
of course. Yeah, I mean, we've seen the brains being separate from bodies before, or just
Lots of-
minds being separated from bodies, but this one was definitely different because it took away from one of the crew members' bodies and then had to figure out how to get it back in him, which once again somehow Bones knew how to control Spock's body but couldn't put his brain back in. The math ain't mathin'. That's all I'm saying. Math
Yeah,
ain't
because
mathin'.
I don't suspect that they have that device just laying around in case somebody's brain goes missing. But maybe it's a retrofitted thing, like if someone becomes paralyzed or something, they can use that to help them move.
I didn't interpret it as they had to use that device. I think it's just the knowledge. I know
Yeah.
he did use things that they don't have, but I think it's more so the knowledge of how to go about doing that. More than anything. So,
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah, 'cause I
the-
think it just happened because they were there, so they used their facilities on that planet to do the surgery.
And we'll get into it a little more when we actually rank it. But part of the reason I asked specifically what you think about this one is because this episode has a reputation as the absolute worst episode of the series. I don't think so. Like, I don't agree with that. Like, the alternative factor is way worse.
Yeah, the alternative factor is way worse.
Like,
At
I actually
least
thought this was kind of fun. Like, I
Yeah.
don't really remember this episode much. I remember there's a weird gap because I like I said, I remember the last episode we watched, Assignment Earth, very clearly. I remember the next episode we watched. We will watch the next episode 2, very clearly. I'm real hazy on this one, aside from the fact that Spock's brain goes missing. But watching it now and knowing that it had a reputation as the worst episode of the series, I don't think it deserves it. I just thought it was fun.
Yeah,
It's not.
I did too. I mean, it wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best. But yeah, I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah. So.
It's a bit of a stretch. I don't know. Maybe certain groups of people didn't like the idea of women controlling them. Meanwhile,
Maybe.
the reverse is literally happening in the world.
Yeah.
Get a taste of your own medicine.
Topical.
Yep.
Well, that does it for my general thoughts. General thoughts. Should we
And
go
you
into
tell we're
favorite?
friends.
Yes. Should we go to favorite lines and moments?
Yes, indeed. You can go first.
Brain and brain. What is brain? It's just
That
funny.
was funny.
I've seen lots of people, like, I was doing research on it last night after I watched it, and finding a lot of people who said the same thing, like, confession, I actually like Spock's brain. And it's just dumb fun. And slightly before that, when the elevator starts, McCoy's like, call Chekhov and tell him to send my stomach down.
That's
that
one
was
of
funny.
the ones I had too. I thought that was funny. But if you, I don't know if you watch it with the subtitles, it says bin and brain. Not brain and brain. But I'm pretty
Interesting.
sure she says brain and brain.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I was looking at the subtitles and like, this doesn't match up, but maybe they misinterpreted it or something. I liked McCoy's line of, he's worse than dead. And I was like, how is that a thing? Which very much reminded me of Hermione's line in Harry Potter. Or worse, expelled. Like, worse than dead. Expelled.
Yeah.
Like, you can still have something worse than death. Do you have more lines?
Yeah, the one where Kara says, the controller is young and powerful. Perfect. And Spock's like, how very flattering.
Even though I was not a fan of this objectification, I did think it was funny when Bone says, I'm sure you noticed the delight aspect of this place. And Kirk is like, yes, I certainly did notice those delightful aspects.
Yeah. I wasn't...
Did you have more?
No, that's all I had. I wasn't entirely... Like, I get what they were... I don't know if the delight... That's what they meant by delights. That's how the crew took it, and it's definitely, like you said, kind of objectifying. But I feel like the like, what's the word? The illusion is that those belts, as well as causing pain, can also cause pleasure or delights. That's how I took it. Like, you get pain as punishment. You get...
Yeah, because that one guy who was sitting at the table in the, like, conference room, whatever the fuck, like, he was just kind of, like, smiling, like, Yeah. So maybe that makes sense. I also had the line, never seen anything like it. He's operating at warp speed, which Scotty said about McCoy during the surgery, and I was like, okay, good one, Scotty.
Speaking of that, this doesn't really fall into any category. I thought it was really clever the way they set it up. If it was today, we'd see a very elaborate sequence with like Spock's skull open and them trying to put the brain in. But just having him on that bed with the thing, like, and the cutout for his head to fit in, and McCoy, I thought it was really cool the way that they did it. Like, it made sense too.
Yeah, and smart, so they didn't have to show the other side.
Yeah, or try to come up with some kind of, like, mold of Leonard Nimoy's head with a... Yeah. We never... For as much as it's talked about, we never actually see Spock's brain.
No, we don't. Very interesting.
So, yeah.
Good point.
But that does it for me for... Okay.
Oh, okay. When Bone says at the end, I knew it was wrong. I shouldn't have done it. I should have never reconnected his mouth.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that one was funny. That was funny, too.
So good. So good.
So that will bring us to That's What They Said.
All right. I can't remember who went first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
This is your That's What They Said for Spock's brain. They could teach us a thing or two.
They come. They give pain and delight.
The others will come for you.
Do they come for your women as well?
Yes, mistress.
I never felt anything like that.
Can you tell us how to get them off?
Please stimulate the nerve endings and observe the physical reactions.
In each case, I shall tell you when the probe is correct. Yay!
Yay.
This was a pretty good one for...
Yeah. That's what they said. Thank you for figuring out that I meant to say when instead of went.
Yes. Yeah, I read it earlier a couple times. I'm like, what's it? Oh, it's when.
Typical me.
So that will bring us to episode trivia from Memory Alpha. Yeah, so this is a little haphazard. I started to pick and choose things, but then I'm just like, I think I'm just going to read most of these.
Okay.
Let me pull. So and some of them are out of order. There's a gag scene. A gag scene was filmed during the production of this episode, showing Leonard Nimoy in handcuffs with a prop gun pointed at him, holding a newspaper with the headline, "Spock gets 2-year prison term." Psychologist Benjamin Spock was sentenced to prison after encouraging draft evaders and claiming the Vietnam War to be anti-constitutional on July 11th, 1968, during the filming of this episode.
Okay.
So there was an actual... Have you heard of the actual dude named Dr. Spock?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was a Dr. Spock. I think he wrote a book about babies.
Interesting.
In Up Till Now, his 2008 autobiography, William Shatner jokes that the plot of this episode is a, quote, tribute to NBC executives who had slashed the show's budget and placed the show in an undesirable time slot. Essentially saying they are brainless.
Bitches.
This is the only episode title of the original series that includes an Enterprise crew member's name. Characters that received a title mention in later series include Q with 8 titles, Data with 3, Julian Bashir with 2, and 1 for each of Deanna Troi, Ro Laren, Aqua Elinori, Melora Paslar, Jadzia Dax, Quark, Morn, Lore, and Rajan.
Okay.
This is the only instance of Sulu recording a log entry while in command during the original series. In his log entry, he refers to Sigma Draconis 6 as Sigma Draconis 7, which I noticed while I was listening. A mistake.
Yeah, I heard that, and I was like, I thought it was Planet 6, but maybe that's just the name, even though it's the 6th planet.
A mistake Kirk made in an earlier log entry as well. I didn't catch Kirk making the mistake, but I caught Sulu making it. The lexicon in the Star Trek Concordance also makes note of this oversight in dialogue. Excuse me. Kirk also lists the wrong star date at the beginning of Act 2 as 4351.5 when it is supposed to be 5431.5.
Kirk is off his game.
Clearly. Yeah. This marks the third of 5 times that Sulu is seen in the captain's chair while temporarily in command. The first time happened in Errand of Mercy, the second in the next episode, and 2 more that are coming up. And then, so this was the 3rd season premiere, written by Lee Cronin, which is a pseudonym for Gene Kuhn. Based on the April 1968 storyline outline, this episode underwent significant revisions before the final draft. Among the early concepts, Spock's brain was taken while he, Kirk, and McCoy were exploring the surface of an asteroid. The antagonists were from the planet Nephil and were known as the Nephiles. Their leader was a male named Irvan. Also, there is no mention of the teacher. When Kirk contacts Spock's brain, he instructs the brain to go into Slan Para, the Vulcan state of complete mental control. McCoy received no transfusion of any special surgical knowledge except for a study of the planet's advanced surgical techniques. Only when combined with his existing surgical knowledge is he then able to perform the surgery. After McCoy completes the brain implant surgery, Spock experiences several side effects from McCoy having reversed the connections of several nerve endings, causing Spock to, among other things, laugh when he wants to sneeze. He is, however, able to restore the errors with his own mental disciplines.
Would have been a very different story.
Yeah.
Episode.
the authors of the guidebook Star Trek 101 applied this episode's title to the Spock's Brain Award, given to the worst episode of each series as voted on by fans. This one.
Yeah, I just don't get why it's so bad.
I don't either. That's it.
I don't
all
know.
I had.
I feel like I've thought of it from different perspectives, and no. Math ain't mathin'. Math ain't mathin'.
It's definitely better than the
That's all I
alternative
gotta
factor.
say. Yes, definitely.
Definitely,
because I still don't quite understand what the fuck happened in the alternative factor.
You have to go back and watch it again and see if you can figure it out. And let me know if you do. I'm not gonna.
No, I'm not. Absolutely not. Not today, Satan. Not tomorrow. Not the next day. Not the day after that. Nope.
So that will bring us to spoilers without context.
Yeah.
Since I went first for That's What They Said, we'll bring Ensign Kayla's spoilers without context up on the screen.
Yes. I did the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz because he has no brain. I did Ice Age because the planet's in an ice age, essentially. I did Vince Clortho, aka Lewis, in Ghostbusters with the wired helmet because that's what the teaching helmet reminded me of. And then the others in Lost because the caveman calls them the others, and it's perfect because we just finished talking about season 2, and this is the others at the end of season 2 that we at least know of and have seen mostly. So, yep, those are mine.
Very good.
Thank you.
I almost used the Scarecrow. I didn't. I used something else, and I definitely thought
I
of
used the caveman used.
Yeah. And I definitely thought of the Ghostbusters helmet while we were talking about it, but I didn't say anything because I knew it was in your spoilers. So we will bring my spoilers without context up on the screen. I had to use the brain in the jar again because, come on.
Take a drink every time Johnny uses his brain in the jar.
I used the caveman, as she said, from the Geico commercials because that was what the dudes on the surface reminded me of. I used
especially because their clothes weren't that bad. They weren't torn up, and they all looked the same.
Yeah. Go-go boot costume stuff. My nose is itchy. Because when they had 3 or 4 of when they were walking, all the women were walking out of the conference room, they all had those thigh-high boots on and the dress.
Yeah.
I'm it makes me think of.
And
at first
go
I was
up the front of their thighs too.
Yeah,
they're very interesting.
At first I was thinking of the fembots from Austin Powers, but that's not what their costumes looked like. It's just 60s go-go boots kind of stuff.
It's like go-go boots that turn into fuck, I always forget the name. It's the things that hold on to stockings.
Garters,
yeah. Well, kind of. Garter belt. Yeah.
Yeah. Garter belt.
Because it's it goes up the front. Anyways.
And then I was just going to use Operation, and then I found out that there was actually a Operation Brain Surgery game.
Oh my
so
god,
I had to use that.
didn't even know about this. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Love. Very good. Very good.
Thank you. So that does it for spoilers. Before we rank the episode, Ensign Kayla, why don't you tell everybody what is going on?
Yeah, so obviously Trek Retrek every Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. We also have our Lost Watch Rewatch series going on right now. It is Johnny's first time. We are popping his cherry, and those are either going to be live or airing on Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. We just finished up season 2. We're going to be talking about it as a whole tomorrow night with Ralph. So make sure to tune in for that. And yes, we're going to be talking about it all the way through the end of September, which is when the Getting Lost doc comes out. And you can find us on social media at GTFO channel, and mostly just post on Instagram, any updates, funny memes, stuff we got going on, all that good stuff. So make sure to follow us there. And if you want to email us, our email is channelgtfo@gmail.com. It is the reverse of our handle, of our social media handle. And yeah, make sure to smack that like, smack that subscribe, smack that bell icon.
Very good. Ensign Kayla, how do you rank Spock's brain?
I'm going to give it a lieutenant because even though we've seen the brain separate from body, it was still a different concept. Obviously, there's a lot of like plot holes and stuff that, I wasn't really a fan of the language used, but, still can understand what they were actually trying to say. Yeah, and it was still like there was funny parts, and it wrapped up in a weird way in how they, used Kara to get the knowledge, but then used Bones to get the knowledge, and then he had to perform the surgery. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It was just like, I can't think of the words. Not too easy, but help.
Convenient?
I don't know what I want to say. I guess. It's still not what I want to say, though. I'll think of it eventually. So yeah, I think just the writing in general could have been a bit better with that. Like maybe
Contrived?
They could have come. Yeah, they just like, I feel like they could have come to an agreement to figure out a way instead of just like Kirk forcing her to use the teacher helmet. And then also telling her, like, you'll be fine.
Which didn't end up mattering anyway, because she didn't do anything. Like, she didn't do the procedure. Like, she still refused to, like, put his brain back, and McCoy ended up having to use the machine.
Yeah. So, yeah. But still different, and you know me, I always like high stakes if someone's gonna die, even though plot armor, we know he's not gonna die.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'll say Lieutenant. Definitely was not the worst episode of Star Trek. Alternative factor. What the fuck?
Yeah. I'm giving it Captain. Here's why. Not because I think it is a great episode. I still think it's fine. I think the reputation that it has as the worst episode of Star Trek means you need to watch this to decide for yourself. So that makes it, in my opinion, a must-watch episode. Especially because, like I said, the Assignment Earth, I have very distinct memory of. The Enterprise incident, very distinct memory of. This episode, for some reason, flew out of my brain. I don't know why. And I'm watching it. It must have been one of those, at the time I was watching it, I watched it and I'm like, okay, this was an episode of Star Trek. It's fine. Happened. Yeah, and the episode before was so noteworthy because of the fucking weirdness of the backdoor pilot, and the next episode we'll get into why it's noteworthy for its own reasons. This one's just it's just another episode. It's kind of forgettable in the mix of things.
The grand scheme of things.
Yeah. So I think I'm ranking it Captain just because I think it's one that you need to watch for yourself and decide.
That's fair.
What you rank it. So Lieutenant for Ensign Kayla, Captain for me. Our next episode then will be the Enterprise incident. An apparently insane Captain Kirk has the Enterprise deliberately enter the Romulan neutral zone, where the ship is immediately captured by the enemy. That's according to imdb.com.
Dun, dun, dun. Sounds like a good one.
We'll find out next time.
And until then, thanks for geeking the F out with us. Peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.
Bye.